Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Move over Gary Ridgway, the Green River serial killer. The most prolific serial killer in the United States is Samuel Little, not you. I remember watching a documentary about Gary Ridgway, and he actually bragged and looked proud with being the most prolific serial killer in the United States. Well, that's actually not true. So, in this video, we're going to take a look into the story of Samuel Little. Samuel Little is America's most prolific serial killer. He was also known as the choke and stroke killer. Some of you might think that it's a short video for a man who killed so many people, but there isn't a lot of information. It's not extensive. I like to name victims in these videos because they deserve to be humanized and remembered. Samuel Little confessed to 93 murders and they confirmed 60. I couldn't find the names of all of them, so I apologize for that. Also, a lot of his victims, confirmed or unconfirmed, weren't identified, so I focused on how a man spent 3 decades killing women without being caught, and you will be surprised he wasn't caught sooner. So let's take a look. How did they caught Samuel Little? Did he kill all those women? But first, let's start from the beginning. Samuel Little was born on June 7, 1940 in Reynolds, Georgia. His mother was a prostitute, so he claimed, and after Samuel's birth, his family moved to Lorain, Ohio, where he was brought up by his grandmother. Samuel attended Hawthorne Junior High School, and he had problems with discipline and school performance. In 1956, Samuel was convicted of breaking and entering into a property in Omaha, Nebraska. He was held in an institution for juvenile offenders. In his late 20s, Samuel moved to Florida to live with his mother, where he worked as a cemetery worker, and he also claimed that he had worked as an ambulance attendant, and he was also a boxer, a skill he picked up in prison. Samuel had a long-term girlfriend, Jean. She shoplifted for years so she could support them both. Jean has actually passed away. Samuel used a wheelchair and he had diabetes and a heart condition. In his late 20s, Samuel was arrested in 8 states for crimes such as DUI, fraud, shoplifting, solicitation, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and assault. In 1961, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for breaking into a furniture store in Lorain. By 1975, he had been arrested 26 times in 11 states for crimes of theft, assault, attempted assault, fraud, and attack on government officials. In 1982, he was arrested in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and he was charged with murder of Melinda Rose LaPrade. She was 22, but a grand jury declined to indict him. He was extradited to Florida and he was tried for the murder of Patricia Ann Mount. She was 26 years old. A witness placed him with the victim on the night before she disappeared. But because they didn't trust testimonies of witnesses, Samuel was acquitted and then he moved to California. In October 1984, Little was arrested for kidnapping, beating, and strangling Lori Barge, and she survived. A month later, he was also found by the police in the back seat of his car with another unconscious woman, also beaten and strangled. He served 2.5 years for both crimes. Can you believe this? In February 1987, he then moved to Los Angeles. I'm sure all of you are wondering, how did this guy get out of prison? Why wasn't the cops keeping an eye on him? And I think the answer is the type of victim, which you will see later on, his choice of victims. He really didn't give a crap. On September 5th, 2012, Samuel Little was arrested at a homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky, and he was extradited to California on a narcotics charge. After running his DNA, authorities connected Samuel Little to the murders of Carole Elford. She was killed on July 13, 1987. Guadalupe Duarte Apodaca. She was killed on September 3rd, 1987, and Audrey Nelson Everett. She was killed on August 14th, 1989. All of them were found on the streets of Los Angeles. Samuel Little targeted marginalized and vulnerable women such as sex workers and drug addicts. Because of their lifestyle, he believed people wouldn't be looking for them after they were killed. Sadly, he wasn't, and he isn't wrong. He would knock his victims out first by punching them. Remember, he was a boxer. And then he would strangle them to death. Then he would dump their bodies in an alley, a dumpster, or a garage. Samuel Little claimed he began having sexual fantasies about strangling women as a child. It makes you wonder what kind of childhood he had. What did he see or experience? I'm sure there's trauma involved, but that doesn't make him less of a monster. As a teenager, he collected true crime magazines which showcased women being choked. Samuel was charged of murder on January 7, 2013. In September 2014, Samuel Little was tried for the murders of Elford, Nelson, and Apodaca. The prosecution presented DNA evidence, and they also presented testimony of witnesses who were attacked by Samuel Little. The lucky ones, they survived. On September 25, 2014, Samuel Little was found guilty of all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. A man like that doesn't belong on the street. In 2018, Samuel Little opened up to a Texas Ranger and he confessed to a huge number of murders. He confessed to strangling and killing 93 women across the United States between 1970 and 2005. That's 35 years, terrorizing women all over the country. He also confessed in the hopes of moving to another prison. Samuel provided details of the killings, and at the same time, the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, known as VICAP, was also linking cases to Samuel Little. Samuel had drawing skills, so he drew pictures of his victims for the FBI. He also wrote details alongside, such as name of the victim, the year they died, and where they were killed. The FBI released the pictures online to seek public assistance in helping trace the killings. The Texas Ranger would describe Samuel Little as a genius and a sociopath. Up until 2020, Samuel Little confessed to more killings. In November 2020, he confessed to 2 Florida murders, and one of those murders, someone else had actually been wrongfully convicted. Up until now, law enforcement agencies have verified 60 of those murders, even though he confessed to 93. On December 30th, 2020, Samuel Little died in a Los Angeles County area hospital. And so this is the story of a career criminal, America's most prolific serial killer, Samuel Little. Surprisingly, the amount of information isn't as big as the other famous serial killers, but that's it. He wasn't famous. But he was actually equally dangerous. The information isn't big, but the list of victims of this man sure is too long. I'm sure some of you think he could have been caught earlier and a lot of the killings could have been avoided. And that's the similarity between Samuel Little and, for example, Gary Ridgway, the Green River serial killer. Both of them could have been arrested and taken out of the streets, but they were let go by the police. We all know prostitutes and drug addicts are vulnerable to crimes like this. But a victim is a victim, and prejudice has way too many cold murder cases under its wing. Currently, authorities believe there are at least 50 serial killers active in the United States. Other people believe there's a lot more. So rest in peace to all of his victims. And to end this, don't forget to subscribe, click the notification bell button. Thank you for watching. See you the next time. Stay safe.
Tell me about Mary Ann.
She's what you nowadays they call a transgender.
She's a black male dressed up as a female. Okay. How tall is she?
Marianne's about 5'7", 5'6". She weighed about 135.
Okay.
Maybe 140.
And how old do you think she was?
But she was 19.
Okay. And where was she from?
No, Miami, down there in Liberty City.
Okay. And did she, you'd mentioned before she had a boyfriend, or she talked about a boyfriend?
Named Wes.
Wes?
Yeah.
And tell me about where you met her at.
I seen her down at the Guar on 17th Avenue, and she had on a short cream miniskirt.
Mm-hmm.
Cream and red. So then this opportunity popped up.
Mm-hmm.
Take her to the store.
Right.
Instead of me bringing her back to the apartment, I went down 27th Street. That's going down to Fort Lauderdale, called the Alligator Alley. It runs into the Alligator Alley.
Right.
But the further out you get, the further you get out of Miami.
Right.
And you got vegetation in there.
Now, how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
It wasn't too far out of Miami, right there. I was in my stepdad's car, Pontiac, Le Mans.
Now, where'd you take her to?
Continue down 27. Got back on 27.
Going outside of Miami. Okay.
Miami.
Going away from Miami.
Going away from Miami. We got down past the let's say limits. So I continued on toward Fort Lauderdale, and I seen a road going off the main road back into vegetation on the left side. So I got her out of the car, pulled her out, and drug her into the growth back there, and pulled her deeper into there's a path. A little path was running somewhere. I don't know where it led it to, but it was running deeper into the undergrowth. It's like Everglades like that. And we ran into some water running. But before we got to the water, the earth was mushy. I turned her loose, and she fell into it face down.
And how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
About a mile, 2 miles.
What year did Mary Ann occur?
72.
Okay, 1972.